Students often either suggest that a firm should raise price or increase sales when profits are low or negative. However, profits do not always increase when the firm increases price, nor do profits always increase when the firm increases sales. The law of demand states that an increase in price reduces the quantity sold, and that an increase in quantity sold reduces price. So price up, you're going to sell less. You want to sell more, well, that generally means you got to cut your price to make it happen. This means that there's kind of a trade-off between higher prices and larger volumes. Therefore, what happens to profit when the firm changes price or quantity depends crucially on how sensitive consumers are to those changes in price. Let's work through a really simple example. Suppose a firm sells pizzas and charges a uniform price for all units of pizzas sold. Suppose right now the current price is $10 and it's selling 1,000 units. Multiply those two things together, you get total revenue. Total revenue is price times quantity. Let's just assume right now that total cost is 10,100, so the profit's minus 100. Now ask yourself, what happens if we raise price from 10 to 11? That's a 10% increase in price if we use 10 as the base value. We're going to reduce quantity. The question is by how much does quantity fall? Let's suppose right now that quantity falls by 15%. 15% of 1,000 is 150, so the new quantity is going to be 850. 11 times 850 gives me my new total revenue. We also got to recognize that if we sell fewer pizzas, our total cost is going to fall. Let's assume the marginal cost of each and every extra pizza sold or not sold is $6. So if we sell one more pizza, our cost rises by 6. If we sell one less pizza, our cost fall by 6. 6 times 850 gives me 6 times 150 must be $900. So the new total cost is now going to be $900 lower than the original total cost. The new total cost is going to be $9,200, which means profit went up. It increased from minus 100 to 150. Yay for the price increase. Now before we move on, I want to compare these percentage changes. If I take the ratio of the percentage change in quantity demanded and divide that by the percentage change in price, I'll get minus 15 over 10, which is minus 1.5. Economists call that ratio the price elasticity of demand. It tells me that when price goes up by 1%, the quantity demanded will fall by 1.5%, and when price falls by 1%, the quantity demanded will increase by 1.5%. Here's a second outcome that could occur when price increases from 10 to 11. Now suppose that instead of quantity decreasing by 15%, it decreases by 40%. It's a big change. We've got very responsive consumers. When we take 40% of 1,000, we see that quantity falls to 600. Total revenue now falls to 660. Well, we still have the same marginal cost, so the decrease in cost is bigger. The new total cost is 7,700. But when we subtract them, we see that the new profit is actually worse than the old profit. Our loss went up from 100 to 1,100. Ooh, boo for the increase in price. The key difference is that consumers in the second example are much more responsive to changes in price. And we can compute this, we could show this by comparing the ratio of the percentage change in quantity divided by the percentage change in price. It now equals minus 40 over 10 minus 4. The price elasticity demand went from minus 1.5 to minus 4. This tells us that consumers are much more responsive in the second example than in the first. Here's a summary. When cost conditions are constant, the optimal price tends to be lower when consumers are very responsive to decreases in price. And the optimal price tends to be higher when consumers are not very responsive to increases in price. Pretty logical. If people don't mind much if you raise your price. If they like low prices a lot, you want to lower your price. Key question now is how can firms learn about consumer sensitivity to price? We have several ways. First, listen to your customers. Hear what they are saying, or hear what they are thinking, not necessarily what they are saying. And they're talking about you, and they are talking to you and about you in social media. Figure out what's going on. Where do they? If you have a site where they can order stuff, where do they drop out? Find the page that causes dropout and ask yourself the question: is it bad design that's causing people to get confused, or are they learning something on that site that affects your behavior? And then you can infer from that what matters to them. Listen to your sales reps. Analyze what's happened in the past. You can look at just history of events, what happened when you ran specials, what happened when you ran coupons, track sales of valued customer cards. You can use the internet to conduct a survey and then run something called conjoint analysis. You can run an A/B experiment. Do a controlled test where you perhaps change price on one website and not another, or where you offer certain emollients in one site and not another. The firm can use existing estimates of elasticities that exist for broad product classes. You take the estimate of the elasticity of the product. If you divide that by the market share of your particular firm or product, you'll get a reasonable estimate of the elasticity that you face when you're trying to sell your particular product. And finally, just think long and hard. How do your products compare with products sold by your competitors or other products you sell? If yours are a lot different, that probably gives you more pricing. And if the more different your product is, the less sensitive your consumers are going to tend to be to your products. But the more similar your products are to competitors, that signals bad news. You're going to tend to have very sensitive price customers. So what makes you distinct or special? And then start asking yourself the question, well, how much would people really be willing to pay for that? Conclusion. Is your firm's IT department doing what it can to identify customer attitudes and behaviors and making the data easily accessible to an analyst? If not, your firm lacks information it could use to innovate successfully and to price goods effectively, and you're probably positioning your IT department as being viewed as a cost center and not a driver of revenue and profit.